and greetings. Hello. Welcome, everyone, to the Knights of Last Call. My name is Derek Melinda, welcoming you to another live stream. We're back. Hopefully, everybody is doing well this evening. Boop. There we go. And we're in for a very relaxed and hopefully fun night. We are going to be taking a look. There's infinite, but there's so many pieces. But I thought about what are some of my most favorite pieces of art from the role-playing game hobby, and I'm sure I missed way more than I possibly did, than I possibly could have ever included, and we could be here for a long time. But that's okay. Ben says, no tip goal, low expectations, lol. So the deal here is, folks, I'm going to go through my photos. I pulled out about maybe 20 or 30 pieces of art. And if you would like for the stream and for myself to take a look at one of your favorite pieces of art, just go ahead and throw, like a couple of bucks, $5-10, into a super chat or a tip and give me the name of the artist and the title of the piece. And I will, as we, go through the stream, go ahead and bring that up, and we can go ahead and take a look at those towards the end of the stream, so we can take a look at what you have. And if we get more than 10 or 15 or 20 of those, we'll probably call it quits there. So no official no official tip goals or stream goals. Besides. We only have so many weeks left till the end of the year. We've got a couple of obligations that we have yet to fulfill for goals that have been previously met. So, I need to make sure that, that we're on our game. So hopefully it's still a fun and productive time. All right. Well, I don't think we have anything much else to really cover tonight. I did want to say just a real quick, word before we get started. So the Knights of Last Call community was very saddened to learn that one of our most popular members, who went on our Discord by the name of Jas, or Jas, Jas, Jose, we hadn't heard from him in a little while. People come and go, but it got to the point where some people were really concerned and thinking that something was wrong. And unfortunately, we learned today that our good friend Jose died a number of weeks ago. And I just wanted to say, that it's really affected the Knights of Last Call community. As a content creator, I don't know. I don't think you're really supposed to get, close to people, but there are Knights of Last Call is so much more than just a YouTube channel. It's a community. It's people are spending dozens, hundreds of hours with some of these folks. And you get to know people, and you get to really, really come to, love and respect them. And, Jose, was just a great guy, fantastic player, kicked my ass so badly in our season 1 finale. And, there's a lot of people in the Knights of Last Call community who played far more, games. Thank you, Mr. Damian Williams, re-upping. Appreciate that. That is 19 months for Damian Williams. Thank you for the support, Damian. We love you too. But yeah, just for for the people who got a chance to really get to know him, they were just playing Pathfinder, Northern Reaches with him. They were playing Baldur's Gate 3 and other RPGs that he was playing. He was running, so he was just a fantastic person. And even within the context of our server, I think he was a standout individual. So I will share my I'll probably put this on the Discord, but I do think this is worth just telling a story about Jose. So in season 1 of Northern Reaches, we ended up with this tripartite god named Triune. And we had several characters that were max level. Several were 20. And then there were some 19s and 18s. And we said, okay, we are going to do a final raid to see if the highest level people in the game can take out Triune, the tripartite god. And of course, one was a 3-headed god. One head, the avatar of death was played by Aaron, and the avatar of something mind was played by me, and the avatar of savagery or something was played by Bob. And anyway, I made this thing pretty damn tough, I'm not going to lie. And one of the main things that it did is it just had these really big AoE type damage effects that kind of used some raid mechanics, where the idea was that you would have to, get a whole group of people together and like bundle up in one area, because that area of effect might do 1,000 damage, but it was divided evenly amongst all the people that were in the AoE. So if you only had one person in the AoE, that person would take 1,000 damage. If you had 2, they would take 500. If you had 5 or 6, they might only take a couple hundred. So, the whole idea here is it was to encourage the raid to move around and be dynamic and have to deal with these incredible problems. So the raid starts, and really early, several members of the raid, including Jose's character Hanog, who was the redeemer of was the I can't remember what his full title was, but he was the champion of Flamegut, who was a player character who had ascended or was about to ascend to godhood. So a bunch of people go in and engage with Triune in melee. Hanog was a barbarian who had like mythic or legendary proficiency, armor proficiency. So everybody closes in. I think, oh, this is a perfect opportunity. And we deploy this massive AoE damage that's only in close range. So we're like, oh, this is going to be devastating. We're going to kill, or at least severely disable the primary melee damage dealers of this raid. So we do this massive damage, hundreds of damage. And this is when Jose reveals that Hanog is wielding or wearing sort of the artifact cloak of Flamegut as the sort of chosen protector of and bringer of the torch of the power of Flamegut. And this basically makes all loyal followers of Flamegut immune to damage for a round. It's a reaction. And it just so happens that all the people who charged in are worshippers of Flamegut. So my first huge hitting AoE that's supposed to take out several people, it does nothing. Okay, so first shot, just complete blank. Then my head's turn comes on. My head's a spellcaster who had the ability to absorb, eat people's brains and take them over. So the group, the champions of Northport who had come into this raid were like, okay, we got to take Derek out first. Plus, it's kind of funny to take the guy out first. So I start to my monster starts to cast a spell or do something, yeah, and then Hanog, Jose, informs me that he has in his possession a weapon called the Tarask Bone Flail. And this gives him the Lesser Death's ability to basically teleport across 500 feet as a reaction, infinite times per day. And when he gets there, if someone does a manipulate, a cast a spell, manipulate, interact, or whatever type of action, teleport next to them, attack them, hit them. And if they hit, not critically hit, if they just hit, they disrupt whatever the person was doing, including casting the spell. So my big boss character's turn, he's going to cast a mass. I think I was going to cast haste or something on all of my heads, so that because each one was statted separately as a different monster. And of course, he teleports across, hits me with this stupid flail, and I lose the spell and I lose my turn. And as it so happens, now that no one died. I didn't get my spell off. I took extra damage. My head dies before I get to go again, because the raid just focus fires me down. But that's okay, because Aaron, his character, his monster, his aspect of trying, the aspect of death, has this really powerful attack where it basically drops a meteor from orbit and it lands. And again, it does 1,000 damage, but if nobody is in the area, and it's kind of one of those timed things, right? Like we put a zone on the ground and it lasts for an entire combat round. And at the end of the combat round, boom, the meteor lands. And if nobody's in the area of effect, the entire raid is basically wiped. They're killed. So someone has to be in the area of effect. The nice thing is the damage, as I was saying, is split up. So if it does 1,000 damage and you have 10 people in the area of effect, they each take 100, very, manageable. But if it's only 1 or 2, they're gonna be taking 1,000 or 500 damage. So the idea is that the raid everyone has to move their characters, take a bunch of stride actions. Everyone has to kind of clump up and gather on this AoE effect. And Jose goes, it's cool, guys. We're good. And his barbarian just strolls in to the area of effect by himself, which qualifies. Nobody's gonna, it's not gonna hit anybody else. And then we do like 1,000 damage to him. And this is where I learned that the barbarian has this like 20th level feat that they can use, which basically like lets them once a day, if they would be killed or something by damage, instead they increase their wounded value and they stay at 1 hit point or something like that. Anyways, long story short, nobody died. And Hanog did a ton of damage. He just completely shut down like everything that we were trying to do in like the best and most fun way possible. I'm very happy that we have that recorded, and we can go back and we can watch that fun kind of capstone to an incredible community game that was Northern Reaches Season 1. And even though Season 2 is not yet quite finished up, it's basically finished up. I know that his character of this season, Camilla, was again just as much of a mainstay and just hugely supportive to everybody he played with. So that's just one of my personal stories. So many people have so many more that have played so many more games with him. So to everybody in our community, I just wanted to say, I'm grieving with you, and this there's nothing that we can do about it, but we can certainly hold on to our memories, and we can certainly always remember that the effect that he had on us and our games and our lives. So. Here's to you, Jose, and I guess I'll see you in the next one, buddy. Okay. Thank you for indulging me there. We are going to start taking a look at some art. Now, this is in no particular order. This is in like a this is in a OBS slideshow. I don't know if I can make this random. I wonder if I can make it random. Oh, I can randomize playback. Okay, there we go. All right. Well, it changed because I randomized it. So again, the whole premise here, these are just pieces of art that either always stuck with me or things that inspired me, or just things that are so nostalgic for me that they really kind of just pop out. And again, remember, if you want me to take a look at a piece of art that I don't cover, feel free to drop a tip or a super chat. Links are below, and give me the name of the piece, the title, the artist, and we'll see if we can go find it, pull it up, and we can kind of take a look at it together. And maybe when you do, tell us why that art is so important or so awesome, or why you love it so much. Okay, so the name of this piece is called The Caves of Chaos. And this is a piece by an artist that I don't, really know much else about. His name's Michael Cormack. And he did a couple of pieces of art for third edition's Player's Handbook 2, which came out near the very end of the edition. And this was him reimagining the adventurers, in this case, the iconics of third edition. We've got Lida, the rogue on the left, the little halfling rogue. We have Mia Lee, the elven wizard on the right. And then we have Redgar, the human fighter. And this is called The Caves of Chaos. And this is sort of a reimagined concept of what it would look like to sort of be at the entrance to the ravine that controls, that has the Caves of Chaos, with these sort of ancient yawning portals leading back into the various deep caves, with the caves that, as the dim ravine goes deeper and higher, have the more powerful and evil monsters. And one of the themes that you'll see here is I just like images that remind me what this game is about. And this game is about adventure. And, I know that there's other role-playing games out there that aren't necessarily about adventure, but for me, D&D is about adventure, and it's about exploring, and it's about going to these scary and amazing places. And I just felt like this artwork makes me want to play D&D. And it kind of combines that thrill of the unknown with the sort of the danger of the unknown. But this idea that these characters, these heroes, these adventurers, are going to go into those dark holes, and they are going to fight horrific beasts and terrible monsters. And they're going to come out with, ancient treasures and sacks of gold. It's just so compelling to me. And this was always one of my favorite pieces. So I really like this one. All right. So back to where we started. So this, of course, is the classic Sutherland piece from the AD&D first edition player's handbook called A Paladin in Hell. And this is probably one of the most iconic pieces of art. It even gets a full page treatment in the player's handbook. It really just, boom. I mean, it pops out. And, we talked about this on the Paladin stream a little bit. But to me, the Paladin was the superhero of Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. It was nearly impossible to qualify for. Your character was a literal virtual army unto themselves. You were a superhero. And this idea of one paladin glowing, suffusing with this magical holy aura, just, in hell, fighting everything. And you could see, the art, obviously, you can see there's like a Glabrazu, and you can see that there's Barbazu, and the idea is, Ben says, Holy Avenger plus protection from evil plus lay on hands. He's going to be fine. I mean, the idea here that the reason I think this is so compelling is like, this paladin's going to win, and, especially for that, we're used to superhero D&D now, but like at the time, this was like unthinkable. This showed you that this game was not just about, grimy medieval, barely proficient characters. This was about larger than life characters. And, this really inspired me as a kid, to really want to like embrace that sort of more epic style of high level D&D, that I think, quite frankly, a lot of campaigns, a lot of adventure paths, really fall short. This idea that high level D&D characters are like, they're like MCU level characters. They're fighting across the multiverse. They're going into planes. The paladin is invading hell. It's supposed to be this completely over the top thing. And I think we've lost some of that over the years. So, classic piece, love it. And, yeah. All right. Well, this came up third, but, this is my favorite piece of Dungeons and Dragons art of all time. And again, we went random here. The name of this piece is Dragon Slayers, and proud of it. And as you can tell by the watermark across the piece, this is by the probably the GOAT for me in terms of artists, which is Larry Elmore. This originally appeared within the first couple of pages of the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons 2nd edition Player's Handbook. I also believe that this is Aaron's favorite piece of D&D art as well. Again, this, to me, sums up, and I apologize for like the zoomed in boot on the left-hand side. Their web pages, you have to they have like a magnifying glass where your mouse is. So sometimes things get zoomed in. Yeah, exactly. But this to me is the game in a nutshell. I do like, and there's some 4th edition art in here that we'll get to, and you can tell it's 4th edition art. But these characters look so real. They look so grounded. The armor, the style, the size, it's all believable. And it makes it feel so much more, it makes it feel more real to me, because when I see so much of the modern day art, I think it's like I'm watching, it's like I'm watching a cartoon, I think that this is so grounded, and I love that about this piece. I love that you can look at the, you know, as a kid, I would look at these and try to be like, oh, what, you know, what class are they? Is the guy with the warhammer, is that a cleric? You know, that'd be pretty sweet if he was, you know, or is he a fighter? You know, what about the big guy in the back? You know, what is he, a ranger? Is he another fight? Like, I just wanted to like know these characters. I wanted to know their stories. I wanted to know how they fought and killed this dragon. I love the understated little box of loot of gold coins and that are at the foot, you know, in the little crate at the bottom of the dragon. To me, again, this is what I wanted for me and my friends. I wanted that feeling of camaraderie. I wanted that feeling of, you know, high-fiving each other and saying, hey, you know, we're proud of what we did here. We did it. Again, this just had such a huge influence on me. They're just all five. Even the guy in the red robe is just actually a fighter. He's just, you know, he's just proficient with stick. So, I mean, you know, I agree with Ben Beowulf. I do like the realistic grounded art. I think it has to, you know, it has to tie to the right game. I mean, if you're playing a game that is hypersonic, you know, nega cyberpunk, then no, maybe I don't want realistic grounded art. But, you know, at this time in these place, this is incredible. I should also say, I am an idiot, and I've been telling myself for years to start collecting Larry Elmore pieces, and getting them, you know, because getting them signed and getting super high quality prints. I am a woodworker, as some of you may know, and I have dreamed of getting some of these prints and building frames and just having a collection. And I think that would be incredible. I have had the opportunity to meet Larry Elmore at several cons, but you know, as I get older, you know, priorities change. Back in the day, I always wanted to spend my money on new D&D books. Now I think I really would love to collect some of his pieces in particular, before he goes. So fantastic. We'll come back to this. This isn't necessarily art in the traditional sense. But this is the map of Middle Earth that Tolkien drew that you can find on the inside cover of Fellowship of the Ring. More accurate in terms of like influence to me would have been the map from The Hobbit, because that book really just shaped my whole life. And you know, this I used to stare at this map. I have this really old worn copy of The Hobbit, and I would just stare at this map. I wanted to explore all these places. I especially when I was younger, I didn't know anything about Tolkien's Legendarium. So all of this stuff was pretty much unknown to me. Now, you know, many, many years later, I look and I know what, you know, some of the, you know, the Lindan and Harlindan are, and, you know, what is the realm of Ariador, and, you know, what was Arnor and stuff like that. And so I just, there is something about this map, I think, that touches everybody who kind of learned about fantasy through Tolkien, and it feels real and grounded, and there's detail here, but not enough to make you, you know, it feels useful, but hand drawn. And I just love every single thing about this map. And I can tell you personally that this map and the sort of concept of Middle Earth had an unbelievably huge influence on me as a young child. And I would just always kind of, you know, go and take a look and just imagine, you know, other adventures that were taking place in different parts of the map. You know, again, I started with The Hobbit, and I looked at the map, and you could see where they started off from Hobbiton, and they, you know, crossed over and encountered the trolls and went to Rivendell and went over and under the Misty Mountains and went through Mirkwood and emerged at the, you know, the Lonely Mountain and the Dale Lake Town. But I was like, look at all these other places on this map. And again, this is before I really even contextual. I didn't know what RPGs were, but I was immediately consumed by the idea of what other adventures could be happening here. And how would I go about, how would I explore those? How would I see those adventures? And, so a year and change later, when I was introduced to Dungeons and Dragons, that the field was very fertile for planting the seeds of a lifelong hobby and addiction because of maps like this. This is the first time that I really started to sort of dream and yearn for that adventure that only RPGs can give. So it's pretty cool. Love it. Couple things here. Quickly, let me just say a shout out to everybody in the chat. Sorry if I missed you earlier. Happy to see you here. Dr. Waits has the Dragon Slayer print in their game room. Elmore is a local guy. Well, that is awesome, Dr. Waits. I give you a strong for that one. That's sweet. Mike, hi. Hey, how do yourself? KC missed the first 20 minutes. What's the structure of stream? Yep, we are just casually flipping through dope art that I really love and talking about why it makes a difference. And, we can get philosophical. There's no tip goals. There's no stream goals tonight. And we're just here to kind of enjoy awesome art together and share stories. And if somebody wants to, I have a collection that I brought in. I asked Ben to send me a group of his collections. So I've got another, after this slideshow, I have a Ben slideshow. But if any of you want us to take a look at some of your favorite art, drop a super chat or a tip. Let us know who the name of the artist and what the piece is, maybe why you love this piece of art. We'll bring it up. We'll take a look at it, and we'll discuss it together. I think, in terms of how art influences play or game feel, I think that is something that we'll keep bringing up time and time again. But I think it goes without saying that I think art is hugely important to these games. And I think it, I know a lot of people, like Magic the Gathering is a great example of this. I know a lot of people who say, oh, I don't care about the art. I just care about the cards. But art isn't just about appreciating the art, right? It's a way to recognize, memorize. It's a way to instill recognition. Art can be functional. Art can be inspiring. So I think art has a critical role to play. Art maps are art, right? Dungeons are art. And these are functional pieces of art. I didn't put any in this drop down here, but I very easily could have taken, the sort of blue maps from some of the early modules or places like Temple of Elemental Evil and showed you those, because as a kid, when I used to see these maps of these dungeons, if I pull up the Caves of Chaos, like that excites me. That is a piece of art that I'm going to use. It's so exciting to me. Maps are one of my favorite things to do, Victor says, speaking of art, it's important to read them as an expression of an artist in a place and time in the world. It's very amazing to see these expressions of TTRPG art. Absolutely, Victor. Absolutely. Because I like that about art. I like that art isn't just about its quality. It's also the history. Art tells you about what people cared about and what people were thinking about and what were they trying to accomplish with this art. So I really, really love that. Hoodie says, I have a high-res version of an extract from Anna Meyer's Map of the Flinnies over my 3 monitors on my work computer as a background, centered on the Wild Coast, Greyhawk, and Selene. Amazing detail. Oh, yeah, I remember, like maybe an early Dragon or Dungeon magazine, I got this, it was like a 4-part poster map of Greyhawk, and I had it like taped up in my room, and I absolutely love it. I obviously I don't have it. I don't know where it is anymore, but I always thought that Greyhawk was a really cool world. I also really love the Forgotten Realms. Okay, so here is another Elmore piece. Again, I told you I was going to show you pieces of art that were important to me. So this is called 3 Doors, but for me, I knew this as the cover to AD&D 2nd Edition's Book of Layers. Which I owned, which again was an incredibly awesome and amazing book. Loved it. It was basically a bunch of pre-made monster layers for a bunch of different monsters and had a bunch of information, which I really, really liked. There were a couple of things about this, which, to be clear, let's get the obvious out of the thing. Like, the women in this are hot. Okay. The fighter, the wizard, I mean, just smoking hot, right? Elmore has some pretty risque art at times. This is no exception. And to a young 12-year-old Derek, this was about as good as it gets in terms of in terms of over sexualizing your hobby. But the other thing that I really liked about it, and I mean, I'm being really honest here. This book, and because obviously I was attracted. I was like, oh my God, they're gorgeous, they're beautiful, they're hot. But I was also like, holy shit, they look like badasses, right? Like, especially the fighter on the right. And, again, I was young. I had to have probably been 12 or something like that, 13 when I got this book. And it was like the first time that I'm being honest here, really thought about like the idea of like, oh, women can be badasses too. And women can be adventurers, and women can be strong, and women can be, powerful. And it really, I'm like, wow, they're in this dungeon, like, especially like the only male in the picture is this little halfling guy, right? The little rogue with the little funny hat on, and they're in a dangerous place, and the dungeon itself is pretty cool. But I remember being obviously enchanted with this piece of artwork, but ironically, despite the fact that I was initially, sort of drawn to it for lewd reasons. I mean, I didn't buy it for that. I bought it because it's an awesome book. But in the end, it really kind of made me, I like to think that I'm fairly progressive and in the way that I treat and approach myself towards women. And strangely enough, I think this piece actually helped me do that, because it made me kind of realize like, yeah, women can be adventurers too. I mean, again, to a young kid, this was, for me, it was not something I'd really thought about. Everything I had read was, predominantly male fiction. Male heroes, right? Women were beautiful, but they were on the sidelines, right? They were the princess. They were the damsel in distress to be saved. These women did not need saving. These women were kick-ass. And that was pretty awesome. Damien coming in with his 18-month super chat says, Elmore's art for the woman cleric in Back Me Basic is still the definitive cleric look in my brain. Absolutely. What's her name? Oh my God. I can't believe I can't remember her name. It's like Starwind or something. Alina, is that it? Alina Starrose, Alina Starwind. I can't remember. Maybe it's just Alina. Anyways, good stuff. All right, moving on. It goes without saying that this was going to be on the list. The first edition 80. So when I got introduced to Dungeons and Dragons, I got introduced, and we'll get to this art later, but I got introduced through a basic box set. And I started playing Basic with my friends, my sister, anybody who I could try to convince to play with me. And then I got invited to play with my older cousin. He's about 10 years older than me. So if I was 12 or something, or 11, he was 21, 22, 23. And they had an ongoing campaign. They had sort of transferred over. It was about, 1992 or so, 1991. So they had transferred over from second edition, but they mostly were still using first edition rules. And I remember this book, and this was back when it's like, you did not, a mere mortal, a player did not touch the Dungeon Master's Guide. In fact, the name of this piece is Abandon Hope. And this, of course, is a Jeff Easley painting. And Easley, along with Elmore, are probably two of my favorite artists of all time. Really kind of, when I imagine stuff in my brain, it is usually something that is Easley or Elmore-esque. I like Wayne Reynolds. I do, but that is not what I imagine anything ever to look like. This is what I imagine things to look like. So I just remember staring at this cover and being amazed, right? And just being like, what forbidden secrets is this guy keeping hold? He has opened the doors just a crack, and what lies beyond. And I remember that a couple years later, or maybe like a year or two later, my cousin decided to join some seminary, and he was going, whatever, long story. He shows up one day with a duffel bag, and he says, "Hey, I'm, leaving for the rest of my life. Here's all my books." And he sets down this duffel bag, and it's got all of his D&D books, his AD&D books. And there, I'm flabbergasted. I don't know what to say. And there, one or two books in, boom, there it is. The Dungeon Master's Guide. It's mine now. And so the moment I saw that book and the moment I pulled it out of that duffel bag, and this would probably have been, very, very soon I would be meeting Aaron Smith at the bus stop. That was like the moment I became the forever DM. I opened the door, the Dungeon Master Guide, this guy, I remember just staring at this art while we were playing when I was a young kid and being like, what will this book unlock for me? And so when I acquired it, it was this, pivotal moment. And so this art is fantastically important to me, because it's like the moment that I discovered my calling as a dungeon master. I guess this truly is random. Okay. So I mentioned, way to go, image slideshow. This is the cover art from the new easy to master Dungeons and Dragons game. This is another Elmore piece. So this was also known as the Blackbox edition. I think it was the edition before Rules Cyclopedia came out. So this would have probably come out like early 90s. And let's see, Blackbox Basic D&D. 91. Okay, so this is 91's D&D Blackbox Basic. So if you think about it, you had the J. Eric Holmes original Basic, the blue box, and then you had the BX D&D, the purple box, the magenta box. Then you had BECME, which was the red box, and then I think you had this version of Basic. So I think BECME Basic, Mentor Basic came out in like 1985. And so this came out 6 years later in 91. And this was more like a board game. And I had started to get into board games, like Hero Quest, Dark World, Hero Quest, games like that. And I loved Tolkien. I loved The Hobbit. I was starting to read Lord of the Rings. Did I say Elmore? I meant Eastleigh. Yes. I thought I said Eastleigh. I meant to say Eastleigh. And so for Christmas, I got the Dungeons and Dragons game. And again, and then of course, when I got really into it, this eventually got my cousin and my uncle, who was my dad's youngest brother. So still older than me, obviously, but a little bit closer, more close to me in age than I was to my dad. He was the hip young uncle. So when they found out that I was in love with this Dungeons and Dragons game, they decided to bring me into the real game. I mean, it was some real like jack chick without all of like the suicide and murder. But yeah, it was pretty awesome. And so this was my first, the first time I saw or knew what Dungeons and Dragons was. I'd never heard of the game before. I had never heard of it, but I opened up my gift that Christmas morning, and there was Dungeons and Dragons, the black box, this dragon staring at me. And this was my introduction to the hobby, and kind of everything kind of, flew from there. So this is Wizard and Dragon, another Eastleigh painting. This is, of course, the cover from the AD&D 2nd edition Dungeon Master's Guide. And the reason I put this on here is simply because this book, while 1st edition AD&D was obviously like this moment of awakening, the fact was it was the early 90s, it was the mid 90s. AD&D 2nd edition is what we play. is what we played. And this was sort of like the Dungeon Master Guide that I cut my teeth on. Now, I like the second edition D&D. The second edition DMG is a very poor book. I compared to obviously it's more edited. It's probably better laid out than the first edition D&D DMG, but it definitely doesn't have the same kind of, kernels of wisdom. But what this art really did show me was this idea, and I'm trying to express it. They should have sent a poet. Was the idea that this kind of abstract concept of the art. All the art I had seen was basically just, like real realistic. Nothing was ephemeral. Nothing was sort of dreamlike. Nothing was, stirring the imagination. And this piece just, I love the balance of it. I love the fire from the wizard's hand, the fire from the dragon's mouth. It's just such a really interesting and well-balanced piece. And I just remember, because again, this was my book when I was cutting my teeth learning to DM. And I would this book was always on my like desk, right? Always at my desk. This and the, monster manual. So it's just one of those memories that just sticks with me again and again and again. And I would look at it and I would try to sort of figure out what was happening. And it was just such a incredibly awesome and amazing piece. So I loved it so much. Yes, the second edition DMG. The art on the Hero Quest box is some of my favorite. I agree. Now, MK Powers, I don't think I have any Keith Parkinson's pieces in here, but Keith Parkinson does have some of my favorite art. And yes, I think this is a Keith Parkinson feat. What Troy is talking about, Lord Soth's Charge. I think that's a Keith Parkinson piece. And if so, that is one of my favorite pieces. I just didn't include it today. So very, very, very cool. All right. So now we hop over to third edition, and this is a piece by Todd Lockwood. It's zoomed in a little bit, but this is the cover from Sunless Citadel. Anyone who's played Sunless Citadel can probably recognize that this is the Twilight Grove. They are fighting twig blights, and they are standing in front of the Guthias tree. But third edition art, I think, is underrated. Number one, it really showed how comically small halflings were. But the thing that I liked about third edition art was, especially the Lockwood pieces, was the characters felt, compared to the earlier editions of the game, they definitely felt a little larger than life. They felt a little bit more heroic. They were a little bit more comic booky. And they were always in these very dynamic pieces. But the thing that I really like about this piece is it felt like D&D to me. This is literally the archetypal party. Dwarf fighter, human cleric, halfling rogue, elven wizard. And I absolutely just love, like I said, and I said this earlier at the beginning of the stream, I love these pieces that make me want to go play D&D with my friends. I love pieces that go, man, I can use this game. I can go do that with my friends. That's awesome. So I really, really like this piece. And I really, really like the first couple adventures from this era of the game. This is okay. So this is going to be completely random. So I guess I'm going to have to turn that off. All right. We've been through these ones. Okay, here we go. Another Eastleigh piece. This, of course, is the AD&D Player's Handbook, the revised Advanced Dungeons, later printing piece for Advanced Dungeons & Dragons First Edition Player's Handbook. And I included this piece because maybe it's because of this piece. I don't know. But I love the look of that. I don't get me wrong. The other classic AD&D First Edition art, the guy, the monster with the gems, it's in this. We're going to get to it. That is awesome. That's classic. But I love this Player's Handbook. I love the look of it. I love the color of it. I love the blues. I love wizards. I have always loved wizards. I don't even care if they're broken or powerful. Like, I played wizards in third edition, and it wasn't like, oh, I embarrassed everybody and made everybody else feel like they, should just not even be playing the game. to me, fantasy games are about magic. And I have never, ever cared about being a rogue, about being a fighter, and even a cleric felt too beholden, right? You're not powerful. Your god or your goddess is powerful. You're just a conduit. The wizard to me was the quintessential fantasy character. And, boom, they put it on the cover of their book. And so I absolutely adored this player's handbook. I adored this art. I thought it was so evocative and cool. I mean, I don't know that I've ever made a wizard with the big, huge beard before, but it is a really cool and fun piece of art for me. All right. So, spoiler alert, Sturm dies. So this is the death of Sturm Brightblade, Knight of Solamnia. The woman standing above him is Lorana, Elvish general of Qualinesti, and they are on the battlements of the High Clerist's towers, and Sturm has just given his life. So the Dragonlance novels were, for me, as an adult, whatever, I get it. It's not the most compelling fantasy, but as a kid, Dritz and Dragonlance were just like everything to me. I loved it. And this was like my Ned Stark moment, because I thought Sturm Brightblade was so cool. I loved his character. I was never like a Caramon fan. But Sturm was I thought he was so cool. I mean, there were other characters in the Heroes of the Lance that I thought were really cool, but I liked Sturm Brightblade. And then they killed him. I mean, they killed him. I was like, what? This was like shocking to me. And it's this like incredibly pivotal moment in the entire, for me in the story of Dragonlance. But, I love this piece. I love the look of, if you don't know Dragonlance, you don't really know who Lorana is, but this sort of look of grim determination on her face. I love the balance of her red cape, her long spear, and the snow just adds so much to this. He looks dead. I mean, he looks like a fallen warrior. They didn't go kitty with it. There's like a grim sort of, vision to this. And yes, Grim Prism says, I bet he stayed dead too. Yes, correct. He did stay dead. Right. Now it's like someone dies, you just cast Revivify and you're on your way. There was a finality to this idea of heroic sacrifice. And that was always such a huge deal to me at the time, because again, this was like one of my favorite characters in the novels. And so this piece of art, which sort of is that moment, is one of those ones that really, really sticks with me. I also just think it's a beautiful piece. This is on my list, by the way, of pieces of art that I want to get from Larry Elmore and get the print signed before he dies. Okay, I don't actually remember where this piece of artwork is from, but I think it's from the 3rd edition, maybe 3.5 edition DMG, but I'm guessing it's a Lockwood piece. I mean, the resolution's a little low, but what's not to love about this? I mean, these are the same characters we just saw, here, right? That's them kicking ass and taking names. But I love this part of the hobby. I love, this is something I probably miss the most about modern D20 games. I miss the sort of, looking at the map of the dungeon and planning your spells and what potions you're going to buy. And, just like, I love the idea of them like this. I'm like, again, this is what me and my friends are doing. It's just the characters are doing it. It's like the essence of role playing, right? We are being taken into the sort of role of these characters. I love how grounded these characters are. They have backpacks and bedrolls, and like they are. I don't know why they're wearing full armor at the inn, but okay. but they have, actual pouches and stuff on them. I just love this piece. I love this idea of this map being sort of unfurled, this classic dungeon map. And just like my players would sit there and discuss strategies and tactics and wonder if there's a secret door somewhere. And maybe we should try going west this time. And then maybe we can get up around, like, that is something that we could always do, that we would always do in D&D. And I just felt like this is one of those pieces that always made me happy. And when I see this piece of artwork, when I used to see it in the DMG, it made me want to play D&D. All right. My favorite piece of art all time. Okay. It's a little small. Let's see if I can zoom it in here a little bit. So this is a piece by our man, Wayne Reynolds. This is from the cover, which wraps around of, obviously, an Eberron book, as you can tell. But this is from the Sharn City of Towers book. Let me move this real quick here. There we go. And for those of you who don't know, Sharn City of Towers is it's kind of like the New York City of Eberron. It's like the largest city. Revo
Grim tip $25 for Hanog.
Thank you for that. Again, just a tremendous loss. I'm just so happy that you have this incredible and amazing community that came together. In fact, actually, as Rivo says that, somebody, and again, we just learned of our friend's death, but he actually died back in September, and again, he kind of went AWOL from our server, and no one really knew what happened to him. But one of our Discord members tracked down that when he died, there was a GoFundMe because they wanted to take him back to Puerto Rico so that he could be buried with his family. And obviously the GoFundMe is over. But I was not surprised to see that the $13,000 goal that was set by his family in order to deal with all the funeral arrangements and all of the problems was doubled, from his friends and family. And when you go through this and you see all of the statements from people in Spanish and in English, you could just see that this guy touched an incredibly large number of people. 385 distinct donations for his funeral service and for helping to transport his remains back home. And that, money talks to a certain extent. And so that really just shows you that, people love this guy. People cared about this guy. So just an all out amazing person. And, very honored that we got to spend some time with him. And, as I told my Discord community earlier today, when I announced it, I said, this is a painful reminder that you never know how many days or how many dice rolls you have left in you. And so it's so important to make them all count. So thank you for that, Rivo. So this is Sharn, City of Towers, and this is a party of adventurers taking on gnolls that are flying on drift discs while attacking a sky skiff as they make their way through the towers of Sharn, which is basically a city of towers that are magically supported by a connection to the elemental plane of air. You can see here in the foreground, there is a Warforged wizard PC who is flying and has a crystalline staff that it looks like he's about to use to crush somebody. You can see that right here in the center, there's a shifter that's sort of a half lycanthropic PC leaping off of his sky skiff to go attack this gnoll through the air. Presumably, he's going to kill this guy and then take over his little floating disc. And of course, the evil enemy wizard in the background sending lightning bolts crashing through. This piece to me is sort of the definitive Eberron Wayne Reynolds over the top, complete pulpy, nonsense, and I love it. Do I love all that super hyper realistic D&D? Of course I do. But Eberron is Magitech. It is magic in a very common way. It's magic on every street corner. It's pulpy. This is like an Indiana Jones. I can hear in my music, my mind, Indiana Jones music playing. This is if Indiana Jones was in a fantasy D&D campaign and magic was kind of prevalent and everywhere. This is the kind of stuff that I would expect to see in that kind of film. And I just loved his art for Wayne Reynolds that he did for Eberron. Incredible artist. And more so than that, it also sort of represents the entire work that he did for Eberron. So I just chose this one piece to sort of represent that sort of take on it. All right. I think this is a William O'Connor's piece, and I'm not sure that I can't remember the name. All right. MK Powers just nailed it. Okay. It's so this is called Echoes. So this again, to me, is what I want D&D to feel like. I want it to feel ancient, and I want it to feel overwhelming. I want it to feel mysterious, and this to me is what D&D should feel like. Exploring these ancient places of grandeur. This to me is like the scene in Lord of the Rings and Fellowship of the Ring where they're making their way through the mines of Moria, and then Gandalf says, "Let me risk a little bit more light." And he shows them the great realm of Dwemerden, and the halls of the dwarves, and it's just endless and massive and cyclopean in scale. And the PCs are just these small specks on this stair, and they're it's illuminated by the light of the glowing magical piece, or glowing magical staff of the wizard or whatever, the spellcaster. These ancient runes written on carvings on the walls, and they're descending. Right, you could tell from the art that they are moving down, and these are who we are supposed to be, people. This is us. We're them. We get to do that. We get to do that. RPGs are magic. They're awesome. So this is a great piece by William O'Connor. I found a piece, but it was so badly scanned. William O'Connor, it's one of my absolute favorite pieces of all time. It's from, I think, Dragon Magazine, like 227. He just did a random piece for an article about, how to build better dungeons. And it's this awesome piece of this like rogue with a single torch, or like a cloaked individual. And it's the point of view is like way looking down, and the rogue is like emerging from these massive sets of double doors and sort of like fleeing. And I love it. It's a fantastic piece. So I like William O'Connor's work. All right. So this is not D&D, but this is another Elmore piece. Yes, there's a lot of Elmore here. This was the box art for Might and Magic 6, which was the Mandate of Heaven. I loved the Might and Magic series. I loved Zine. I loved the Clouds of Zine. I loved the Dark Side of Zine. I loved... I just loved all of the Might and Magic. Then they came out with Might and Magic 5, Might and Magic 6. I don't know if I played Might and Magic 7. But again, you're noticing a theme here. I am who I am. I love, for starters, let's talk a couple things here. Number one, this to me is like the perfect size dragon. I don't like these, just these like massive 100-foot long dragons. It takes me out of it. It doesn't feel, like maybe you could be a little bit bigger than this and I would still be okay with it. But to me, this is the size where a dragon feels like scary and massive, but also like I want my dragons to feel like elephant sized, right? Elephant sized. Once they get to like blue whale or bigger, it just starts to feel like I can't believe that a spear or a sword is ever gonna, kill this creature. But yeah, I love these games, and a lot of them have of cool art, but this one in particular was one that I always really loved. Also, I used to use this CD-ROM, and I used the soundtrack from it, and like this was like the first time this is kind of like an additional bonus story, but this is like the first time I would add music to like my games. And I would steal music from the video games that I was playing. And Heroes of Might and Magic 6 had such a great soundtrack. And so I used to play this all the time. Love this. I love this art. I love the knight charging in with the lance. I love the, potentially slain adventurer. Again, I love the scale of the dragon. I love the scope. I love the width of the piece. All in all, just a fantastic piece that I really, 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 really like. All right, so this one might surprise you. So this, of course, is from the 5th edition's Player's Handbook. A gentleman by the name of Tyler Jacobson. I don't really know much of his other work. I'm going to be honest with you here. I love this piece of artwork. I love the look of the fire giant and the baying hounds in the background. I think the 5th edition Player's Handbook is a beautiful art, or a beautiful book. I love the 5th edition style of the glossy art that wraps around with the sort of rough texture to like the banding on the top and the bottom. I think they are just beautiful books. Again, is it more heroic and over the top? Absolutely. Is this getting borderline to, what I would consider humans fighting giants? Again, this feels within the realm of possibility. If our characters are, of course, laden with powerful magic items and magical arms and armor. But Beowulf says the giant's too big for me. It's a little bit too big for me, but I love it because I love giants. Rule of Cool says, I hate giants. I love my group, and nothing makes me happier than fighting giants. And I'll tell you the reason why, because I love putting down those big minis on the table. I love it. I love, like, large and huge size creatures are just so cool to put on to the map. Anyways, I love this book. Unikatsu, I'm guessing it was Dragon Magazine 27. Let me see if it was actually that. Yeah, it is Dragon Magazine 227. It's a piece, it's an article about dungeons, and it's a full page spread. It's a rogue running out of double doors. Probably very hard to find. Maybe maybe I can find like a bad, and I think it was by William O'Connor. William O'Connor's. I found a scale of it, but it's really, really horrible, low res. Anyways, I just really like this art. I was not a fan of the 5th edition Dungeon Master's Guide. I didn't think that was particularly cool art, but and Monster Manual was whatever. But I like the Player's Handbook. It felt exciting and interesting to me, and very dynamic. And I like the scenes of people doing the things that I want to go do. All right. Well, it was going to be in here, of course. Speaking of players doing what it is that they want to do. And I think this is maybe a slightly abbreviated version of this classic piece. So obviously this is the AD&D first edition. Cover art, where we see that we've got the recently successful adventurers, and again, I like modern D&D, and I like heroic stories, but to me, this is the quintessential, murder hobos. It's the lizard men are dead. They're stacked up. There's been a couple PC casualties, and you got the rogues up there with a crowbar going to town on the ruby eyes of the idol. It's everything that D&D, is. And while this isn't necessarily like my absolute, favorite piece of art, I do definitely respect it for sort of, setting the tone about what it is that, what this game is about. And again, it's just a fantastic piece and has just a lot of fun to it. And yeah, it really just kind of highlights that, the game is, it's about killing things and taking their stuff. I mean, it's on the cover of the book, Oh, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if Ben's still here, but I mean, there's absolutely something horrific happening, but in good, fair order. It's only one of the eyes is going to completely screw them over, right? The one is just, worth 5,000 gold pieces or something, 10,000 gold pieces. But the other one is going to, saving throw or die, and they, they get killed immediately. But that's the essential nature of D&D, especially the older games, right? Risk and reward, pushing it in. The whole thing is just cursed. Hey, we have a super chat. It's their first one from Space Narwhals. The cover of Glimmering Crypt of the Ion King by Adrian Landeros is my absolute favorite. You want to tell us, Space Narwhals, why that is your absolute favorite? All right. Let me see if I can bring this up here. All right. I am going to mute that for a second. And I'm going to grab a window capture. There we go. Alrighty. All right. So this is the cover for the Glimmering Crypt of the Ion King. A 5th edition compatible adventure for characters of level 5 to 7. Let me just say something here. It is a shame that Pathfinder 2 doesn't really have this. And I get why. There's economies of scale. If you're going to make an adventure, you got to make it for 5th edition. But I miss this. What do I miss? I miss, hey, here's an adventure. It's self-contained. It's 2 or 3 levels long. It's not 80% of your character's campaign. You get in, you do something cool, you explore critical. Look, obviously this is location based because it's literally called the Glimmering Crypt. And obviously, by the way, you got to love it. It's got the Ion King or the Eon King, however you want to pronounce it. And look at this guy. He's got how many Ion stones does he have circling his head? Like all of them? It's awesome. So, but yeah. Levy is one of my Necromancer game writer friends. Well, that makes total sense that he would be writing something like this because that's awesome. So yeah, I like this art. I like this throne. I like the Ion stones. Bruno, they do have adventures that span 3 to 4 levels, but usually almost all of them are in adventure paths. I'm talking about individual adventures that just you could drop in any campaign and drop out. Right. Well, remember though, Karzug buried them into his head. How many Ion stones? Yes. So it's a cool concept too. I like the idea of taking it. I like the purple around the look. Very cool. Yeah. Awesome. Good stuff. Thank you, Narwhals. All right. We looked at that one. All right. So this one's called The Charge. And this, of course, is the cover. Another another Easley piece. This, of course, is the cover of the second edition Player's Handbook, the first printing. I know I said that. I know I said that wizards are my jam, but this makes me want to be a fighter, right? This guy was on the cover of the Player's Handbook. This, obviously, again, a lot of this is nostalgia. This is just a book that, yes, it's like every PHP cover is Derek's favorite. That is an accurate understanding of it. And I think it's just because, you become familiar with it and you see it so much and it just gets embedded into your psyche. But there is something about this that in my mind, I could, I probably had seen Willow. Yeah, I had already seen Willow. And there's all these scenes in Willow, like the heroes heroically getting onto steeds and dashing off. And that wasn't something that I experienced in my D&D games, right? Because nobody had horses, they would just go into the dungeon. They didn't heroically charge their horses. And I remember being really disappointed that my campaigns never featured horses. And if they did, it was almost just a bus pass, oh, we'll get horses. Okay, we ride in the dungeon, we get off and we go in. Oh, we hire somebody to watch our horses while we're in the dungeon. So but I remember Willow's one of my, if not my favorite movie of all time. And they are just, always just fighting from horseback, getting new horses, riding, racing, trying to escape people. Horses are just such an important part of the game. And here it was on the Player's Handbook. And I was like, man, am I doing this wrong? Look at these guys. These heroes are knights in a way, they're on their way to kick ass and take names. And my PCs aren't doing that. So, yeah. So anyways, another classic example of an art. So this is another Easley piece. This is called The Magister. And the Magister is a Forgotten Realms character. But the real reason why, I love wizards. I love the undead in this piece. I'm going to zoom this piece in a little bit here so we can take a look. Just very, dramatic as this, evil wizard is summoning up the undead. At least I believe the Magister is supposed to be evil. But one of the reasons why this art is so memorable for me is because this was a Forgotten Realms piece. They used it as the cover art for Eye of the Beholder 2, the Temple of Darkmoon. And that is where I know this art from. I know this art from the cover of Eye of the Beholder 2, the Temple of Darkmoon. And I love that game. I never played Eye of the Beholder 1 as a kid. Eye of the Beholder 2 was the first D&D computer role-playing games that I played. And I loved it, obsessed with it, still am. If you want to be honest, I still am. I love it. And this art to me was just because I remember I said I love giants. I also love undead. I think undead are the coolest monster. And to be fair, I am saddened by what undead have become in the modern era. And let me explain to you why. Because I grew up, right? I've always talked about how D&D is an oral tradition, right? I love the idea of it being more than just something you learn. It's passed on. And I grew up, I was taught, at the hands of people who had played through the 80s. And these were people who played with morale checks. And these were people who played with, I remember my cousin, again, he had a big group. There was 12, there were 12 people in his group. 8 to 10 people, but there might be 12 characters because some people have henchmen or hirelings or whatever. He would throw 30 or 40 monsters at us. I'm not even kidding here. He'd be okay, he'd roll dice and he'd be all right, the 37 gargoyles are attacking you. And I remember he would sit there. This was just the time and the place. He would just sit there and roll hit dice for these monsters for a couple minutes while we were getting ready and figuring out what we were going to do. And anyways, so you just had these massive armies. And here's the thing. I remember that everything just basically ran away. And I was taught that undead do not. And the other players were taking me aside, listen, young one, you don't know about undead. They level drain. They require magic weapons to strike down. They are immune to morale. They will not flee. You know, a lot of our magics do not work. They can't be poisoned. They can't be, all these things didn't work against them. Like all of the tricks, all the aces up your sleeve just didn't work. So like undead were just like so terrifying to me. Grim Prism says level drain, make your fort saves or take damage to your stats. Grim Prism in first edition AD&D, level drain was you get hit, there's no save, you lose a level of your character, not temporarily, permanently. I can see it. It's still there when we play Pathfinder. And, we've been playing long enough that most of these monsters have come out. And when I throw something like a wight, okay, W-I-G-H-T, when I throw something like a wight or a specter against the party, I see this like knee-jerk look of terror in Smith's eyes that, Bob doesn't have. Bob, because now a specter is just, it's just another incorporeal undead that does void damage or something. But a specter, and D&D, AD&D aficionados will correct me if I'm wrong here. A specter was one of the most terrifying things that you could ever imagine possibly fighting. An incorporeal undead that required magical weapons to strike it, that did two levels of drain when it hit you. Unthinkable, unimaginable, unfathomable how brutal that would be. So the idea of the specter is just horror incarnate. So undead were always just so awesome to me. And I loved this piece of art because I grew up with it as a kid on the cover of my book. And Ben says the best defense is protection of evil. But see, this gets back to why I love the old concept of the cleric. Because you know what? Undead would flee from a turn undead spell or from a turn undead ability. And there was no X uses per day. You could just turn undead because you were holy and they were unclean. Do you realize that in basic D&D, a first level cleric got 0 spell? They didn't have any spells. They actually got turn undead at first level. They didn't get spells until second level. And you might say, well, why would I ever take a cleric? Because they had turn undead. And they got heavy armor proficiency. Undead were just so terrifying that like an entire class was basically built around handling them. And we talked about, someone asked in our live stream about specialist versus generalist. I think that was in our Patreon Q&A. Never mind. Well, patrons know what I'm talking about. But somebody asked a question about like specialist characters versus generalist characters and how do you effectively. Like, I love the idea that it's like, yeah, okay, a cleric, they're not the greatest at blowing up hordes of goblins, right? That's something the wizard can do, or a high level fighter. But like, when it comes to undead, the spells that they have available, the abilities that they had made clerics, your go-to choice. And anyways, I love undead. So we did this one. Okay. Last one. It's another Todd Lockwood piece. I mentioned that I love Dragonlance. This is a Todd Lockwood piece when they put out a anthologies book that contained all of, Dragons of Autumn and Twilight, Spring Dawning, all that. And then they also had the Legends saga. And for those of you who don't know, the Legends saga, Time of the Twins, Test of the Twins, God, my memory's failing me, was all about Caramon and Raistlin Megere. And most people, it's weird to think of this, but maybe people don't know who Raistlin Megere is. But Raistlin Megere was like the original bad boy of D&D. And Raistlin Megere, I love Tolkien. I love high fantasy. And Dragonlance is absolutely one of my favorite settings of all time. And I love this picture of Caramon and Raistlin. And what Caramon has there is the Dragonlance. And the power and majesty of these weapons cannot be understated. I think that both brothers, they're twins, by the way, both brothers in this piece of art look amazing. Raistlin obviously a little upstaged at this point by his brother, but just looking awesome. every ounce the mage of high sorcery. And boy, the Locke would know how to draw dragons. I mean, if you think about the classic dragon that we're all thinking of, the sort of sunken in skull black dragon, the crinkling opaque horns of the blue dragon, the sort of oversized beak maw of the white dragon, that was all stuff that Lockwood developed during 3rd edition D&D. I love this piece. I think I like wizards. I would rather be Raceland, but man, if I had to be a fighter, boy, that's what I want to be. And you know how we talked about riding horses? Let's talk about riding dragons. Now, many of you know that Aaron Smith has said many times that his most favorite character of all time was William Brandis, his warlord from 4th edition D&D. Now, William Brandis was a king of men. He was the reuniter of the kingdom of Nerith. He had the mythic sovereign epic destiny. But William Brandis, now at high levels, other characters had the ability to, teleport at will and move around the battlefield. William Brandis had a dragon. Yes, at high level, Aaron's mount, which 4th edition did so awesomely. I'm not going to get into the rules here, but in integrating mount rules and especially special mount rules, 4th edition was awesome. And William Brandis had a dragon mount. And it was awesome. It was incredible. He was a king of men. It was like a Warhammer character. It was so awesome. Anyways, I love this piece of art. It is one of my favorites. All right. So that is the end of my 25 slides. So what I'm going to do next, again, if you have any that you want us to take a look at, let us know. We can certainly look them up. I am going to add Ben's here. Now, Ben is in chat, but I do want to talk about now. I know most of the history of these. I may not know the artists, unfortunately, but the art nonetheless. So our first piece that we're going to look at here is from 7th Sea. And 7th Sea is a very, very, very compelling RPG because it knows what it wants, it knows what it's about, and it gets to it. And to me, again, Ben chose these art as some of his favorite art, but I asked him to do it because number one, I really respect Ben, but number two, I think it's interesting to sort of, he and I can have very different tastes, but I love this piece. So this is my thought. Why? This is what I want my 7th Sea game to look like. I want it to be a showdown, a duel, right? With rapiers drawn as the church burns around us, right? And but neither of them is looking at the blaze, right? They are locked in with each other. Hero, villain. This is what it means to be a hero in this game. And this art tells you everything that you need to know. And it's like, and as a GM, if you're not doing this, if you're not delivering this, maybe not every session, but if you're not doing this, you're missing the point. I think this is an incredible piece. I love it. I love the colors. I love the stained glass. It is fantastic. It is a fantastic piece. Very good job, Ben. You were just listening to the 10K sub video and we were talking about William Brandis. Yeah, I mean, that's Aaron's, screen name on most YouTube platforms and stuff like that. And actually, we're here talking about art at one of probably like a 2011, 2010 timeframe Gen Con. Aaron, we were at Gen Con, and on day one, he went to Wayne Reynolds, who's one of his favorite artists, and he gave him all the notes that he had about William Brandis, and he commissioned a Wayne Reynolds original drawing of his character. And it's a big one. I mean, it's, not just some little tiny sketch. I mean, this thing is like, 11 by 17 or something like that, or maybe even a little bit bigger than that. It's big. And Aaron has his character drawn as interpreted by Wayne Reynolds. So he's got his own, Aaron owns his own Wayne Reynolds original of his 30th level D&D 4E character, which is pretty awesome. I wanted to address something else here. Troy says any of Parkinson's EverQuest art. Now, I didn't put these in, Troy, but let me just say, yes. Yes. The original EverQuest box, Ruins of Kunark, Scars of Valios, Shadows of Lucklin. All of these are amazing, incredible, awesome pieces of art. I love all of the Keith Parkinson EverQuest box art so much. So much. Absolutely love it. So awesome picture for here from Ben. That is a fantastic thing. All right. So next we have a picture of Imricol the Chaotic. Maybe it got cut off a little bit. Oh, no, there it is. Imricol the Chaotic. And this, of course, is from the first edition DMGs. And what do we see here? Well, we see, I'd love for Ben to share in on this, of course, but you're flipping through the DMG and suddenly you flip the page and there's a full art piece and it's got this title on it. And you see a character who is running through the streets of the city, burning down what seems to be guardsmen, villagers with burning lances of light, while at least one or maybe two brave heroes are coming out of the Green Griffin in to try to perhaps stop him. Maybe this is oh, well, there's the answer. Ben says, what I love about this is that this is a PC. So there you go. That's Ben's reason for loving this, because nope, sorry. This wasn't a villain. This was just actually a PC being depicted. I never knew that. Again, I've told this story before, but it reminds me of this time that I rolled a random encounter, and I think it was 3rd edition D&D, and it was a red dragon, and the red dragon came down. He was like torturing certain members of the party and killing some of them, and he said, "Okay, all right, fine. The rest of you I will spare, but you must offer me as homage all of your treasure and magical items." And so the group, very begrudgingly, because the dragon had a breath weapon, would just kill him instantly, laid out all their magical items. The guy, the greedy red dragon started scooping them up with his claws, and then he was like, he's like, remember your place, adventurers. He soars away, and then I like bank back, and then I go, chaotic evil bitches, and I just breathe fire. On all the party members, anyways. And none of my PCs were even mad. They were just like nodding, like, yeah. Yep, chaotic evil bitches. That is the name of the game. Hey, SC Voldo is in the chat. That's our buddy Rich, and he was there for that session. He was one of the characters that got killed. Actually, I've told this story before, but there's a fantastic story about him. His character, I don't even remember what his character was, but his character had a bad will save. He was some sort of fighter or something like that. And he was like, all right, I'm going to kill he cast suggestion. The red dragon could cast suggestion 3 times a day. And like, it was just a guaranteed thing that he was going to fail. So the red dragon suggested that the fighter go drown himself in the river. And his SC Voldo's character passed the will save. And now the dragon's getting pissed. And he's like, suggestion. He's like, go kill yourself in the river. And he won't do it. And he's like, go kill yourself in the river. I'm giving him a bonus because it's a suicidal thing, but the DC is so high. But he's literally rolling like 19s, 20, 19. It's insane. So he does it. And then I go for a 4th time. And I go just real quietly, like, throw yourself in the river or I'll kill everyone in your party. And like one of our friends is like, Derek, I think he's out of suggestions. I think he only gets 3 per day. And I go, oh, no, that's not a magic spell. He's just saying that. And our buddy Rich goes, yep, okay. He's like, hopefully you guys could save me. And then he just like jumps into the water. Oh, it's so good. No, I'm sorry. After I got my story mixed up. After he passed the 3rd save, I think the red dragon bit him in half and killed him instantly. Then he turned to Aaron's character and he said, you go jump in the water or I'll kill all of your party members. And Aaron or somebody said, I think he's used all 3 of his suggestions. And I said, that one is not a suggestion spell. That one's just, a suggestion. Anyways. All right. Good stuff. All right, Joe, take care. Awesome. Thanks for stopping by. All right. Ooh, we got a broken compass action here. I didn't actually really take a look at these. Oh, that's sick. Many stories have been told of the dice of S.E. Voldo. Rich used to keep his dice in my parents' refrigerator. So this is from Broken Compass. A great book, great game. Definitely should pick it up. I think there's like correct me if I think I kickstarted it. I think there's like a new modern Broken Compass, right? Called like Ryan will know in chat. But this is like a pulp action, kind of let's call it what it is, right? It's kind of like that's the new one. Outgunned. It's more of like a more of like a modern pulp action. This is more of like a classic, 1930s Indiana Jones style pulp action adventure game. And I love everything about this, but I think the reason why Ben likes this is because this gold coin that he's going for is also like the same gold coin or symbol that they use for the hero point or something in this game. And so it's like he's literally like basically like trying to like get the hero point to survive this thing or get the adventure point. I don't remember exactly what this is, but this is a fantastic piece of art. Obviously extremely pulpy, extremely over the top. Just dramatic, incredible. Yeah, the luck coin. That's it. The luck coins. Right, it's a luck coin while they're fighting on a gigantic kaiju beast monster. Also, there are guys with machine guns. So it's everything that you want to do. That's what it is. It's called the luck coin. I forgot what the mechanic was called, but that is the luck coin. He's literally trying to get lucky. I love it. It's so good. And it's so fun, and it's just so evocative of the whole game. So great piece. Okay. This one is Aspect of Nyarlathotep. I can never pronounce that name. Nyarlathotep. Anyways, this is Call of Cthulhu. Obviously, Ben loves. It's too fathomable. So this is a brutal piece. Very cool. I love the little effects like the stains, the watercolors, the drops of ink. The sort of etched sort of magical circle behind it. The quasi-Egyptian motif to the characters' look and shape. Ben informing us this is one of the most terrifying of Nyarlathotep's aspects as the Black Pharaoh. Hotep is its own word. Got it. So it's Nyarlathotep. Nyarlathotep. You guys are teaching me everything every day. Bob would probably say that this was too scary for him, but it is pretty scary. And I like mummies. So, I mean, he's not exactly a mummy, but he's kind of a mummy. Nyarlathotep. All right. We'll go with that. Of course I can. The words do not the words do not matter to us. Hey, we got a tip from Laz Dark.
Lazarus Dark tipped $15. Donation to this stream in honor of my full-time artist wife, who does all the art for my TTRPG stuff for the low price of 50% of everything I own. Smile.
Oh, that's awesome, Lazarus Dark. I do believe that you have mentioned to me before that your wife is an artist, and that's awesome. Honestly, I think one of the great disappointments in my life, right up there with like giving up on trying to learn how to play guitar and piano, is I never learned to draw. I never learned to art. to find something artistic. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons I like woodworking so much, is because it gives me a creative outlet, but it's still pretty, it's still pretty engineering like for artistic output. But I really tried to get into like oil painting. I bought a lot of oil paints and a lot of brushes because I want to be able to express myself. And, working as I have for many years in software and analytics and data science and machine learning, it's all just, I need something more, base chakra. So good stuff. All right. So here we have the art from Conan 2D20. And, I don't think it is a, Vallejo or, Frazetta piece, but it's definitely got Frazetta vibes. I mean, this is classic sword and sorcery stuff. And I didn't include one in my list, but I could easily include any number of Conan the Barbarian novels cover art by the aforementioned Frank Frazetta or Boris Vallejo. Love it. I love the serpents. I love the mighty thewed barbarian. I love the alabaster skinned, virgin princess, basically. I mean, look, both of these characters are being obviously hypersexualized. I would love to be him and I would love to have her. So let's call it what it is. And again, it's just this hyper realistic depiction of these larger than life characters. Conan art is something that I will honestly say is very, very inspiring for me. I love sword and sorcery. As like a game, it hasn't always grabbed me, but as like a form of, I love pulp action novels. Like I'll be honest with you. I'm going to tell you the truth. I would rather read a trade. Most of the time, I would rather read a trade Conan paperback than like the latest awesome mega fantasy epic. I just want this fun, thrill ride through this, crazy imaginative world. My MK Power is informing us that this is Brahm, another fantastic artist with infinite credits in the D&D and RPG space and magic space. Brahm, very famous for most of his Dark Sun work I love. The AD&D second edition, the way that like Tony DiTerlizzi is known for the Planescape, like Brahm is the Dark Sun guy. So that Brahm vibe is pretty awesome. So good choice. Unfortunately, Conan 2D20, not the greatest game. Not saying it's not bad. It's just Modifius has like continued to like it's all 2D20. All their games are 2D20. Well, most of their games are 2D20, but they keep like making it better with each iteration. Like they're actually going, hey, we're making a new system. We might as well learn from what worked in the last system and try to make it better in this system. And I really appreciate that. But unfortunately, Conan had a lot of problems and quite frankly Ryan took the words out of my mouth. So I am going to let him say what I was going to say. Nothing says Conan pulp action like the procedural resolution of original 2D20. Correct. Very not pulpy. All right. Well, we have here the cover to Mothership, a sci-fi horror RPG by Tuesday Night Games. Sean McCoy and Alan Girding, who used to be friends of mine. Haven't talked to them in many, many years since they became big superstars. Mothership is a game I have not played and I do not own. But the sort of sketch drawing of what appears to be an astronaut, maybe with his guts hanging out and his chest ripped open, is pretty par for the course. I do like that it's called the Player's Survival Guide. That is a nice touch. So again, there's an aesthetic here. I don't, Ben may have been calling out just the art piece, but I really like the aesthetic of the title and everything. I think it's an incredibly well done piece. Fantastic. All right, and the last one, Ben and I both, I guess, get double here, which is Ben chose the map from the One Ring game, the Wilderland. And this is obviously from the game. So in the One Ring game, the entire game basically takes place in the lands of east of the Misty Mountains and sort of like north of Gondor. But like, again, I mean, we already went through this. Ben included his version, a map of Tolkien, right? There is something about Tolkien maps that just really just makes me want to explore. It makes me want to, there's something mysterious and compelling. And I love it. I love that, we're so used to these modern D20 or even just these modern fantasy RPG maps, right? Where every town is labeled and all the nation's borders are drawn and everything is safe. And here is Cormyr, and here is Aglarond, and here is Sembia, and here is Am, and here is Tethir, and here is Kalimshan, and here is Waterdeep, and here is Silvery Moon. And it's like, is there any place that is just, I don't know, unexplored? Is there any, it feels like you're driving across America and you're just like, every 5 seconds, there's like a 7-Eleven. Like, where's the wilderness? These maps always make me feel like these are wilderness. So that's pretty good stuff. We had a $10 super chat. The box art for the 3rd edition starter set featuring the team busting through a door with a dragon behind them. Oh, I know that art. Where is it? That's 5th edition. Oh man, I don't know. I was like, I have to have that box set around here somewhere. I know exactly which one you're talking about. I was going to just go like pull out the box set, but I don't see it like right in my line of view. All right, let me go look it up. D&D. I think I know exactly which piece you're talking about.
Hey everybody, welcome back.
All right. All right. So, obviously this is a YouTube video, but thanks. I just quickly found it. So yeah, same basic. I mean, this is exactly what I was talking about before. I mean, everybody's going to have their own version of this, right? I mean, this is the iconic party. This is Redgar the fighter, right? It's the human fighter. It's the human cleric. It's the halfling rogue. It's the elven wizard. And I suppose, I don't know if they're fleeing from the dragon or if they're attacking another room, but either way, again, it's dungeons, it's dragons. And it's very, 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 very cool. And it's, again, your adventure begins here. It's the Dungeons and Dragons adventure game. It's very, very compelling. I love it. It's such a cool part, And again, also let's call it what it is. Think about, this goes back to like the 10-year-old, right? Me, when I got that black box D&D and it had this big red dragon and this one solo guy holding up his sword and engaging it. I love that. That hooked me. That got me into D&D. But let's be clear. This is probably a more accurate portrayal in the sense that it's not one guy versus a dragon. It's a party. It's a party versus the dragon. D&D is about playing with your friends. It's about playing with a group of players. And, there's, while I love I love that box set art because that was my introduction to the game. I feel like when you're a little kid and back in the, 2000 or whatever, when this box set was dropped, this is like, you get this for Christmas and you go, oh, this is a game for me and my friends. And, we can go on adventures and we could be these characters. And I think it does a better job of communicating that. And it's just exciting. And it's just a really, really fun way to bring the game in. Also, again, nostalgia horror here, but I loved the D&D 3rd edition logo. I loved it. Good stuff. Very good stuff. Nice memory. Let's see. We got a super chat from Damien who says, Modifius brought in guys from Fantasy Flight Game Star Wars to fix 2D20. Well, they're doing a good job because maybe the Fantasy Flight games learned what didn't work in Star Wars. And they were like, hey, we also have experienced some issues. Maybe we can fix some of those. Because it's really funny, actually, because, right, like Dune does not have an effect die, whereas Star Trek Adventures does have the effect die. I do not like the effect die. I don't like the effect die. Dune, to me, is a better rules engine than Star Trek Adventures. Obviously, Star Trek Adventures is about Star Trek, but in terms of like the raw 2D20 application of it, I would much rather have a 2D20 system that does not have the effect die. I know we're getting very in the weeds here about 2D20. Let's see. Tim Panda says, sorry, just popping in. Y'all talk about the nymph art from the 3rd edition monster manual. It's not so much favorite as you didn't need to do that. So I believe the nymph, without pulling it up, the nymph from the 3rd edition player's handbook was quite risque, as I recall. But the game. The game sometimes, it can have some. Look, I'm not gonna lie. I love the nymph as a kid too. But one last thing I wanted to do here before, because it's 8:30 or no, it's 8:40. I just wanted to give a special shout out to. By the way, there's the. There's the nymph. Wowza. Anyways, I wanted to give a special shout out to Legend of the Five Rings. Now, obviously, this does not have this is specifically Legend of the Five Rings, the collectible card game, or I should say, Legend of the Five Rings, the living card game from Fantasy Flight Games, and a lot of the art from Legend of the Five Rings, the role-playing game. The 5th edition from Fantasy Flight Games. This is obviously a newer game, so this does not have the same sort of core structure of my ethos. But this game and these artists have continued time and time and time again just to blow me away, not only with the style and the evocative feeling and the, let's call it what it is, badassery, but the ephemeral watercolor sort of nature of so many of these pieces of art are so beautiful. It is so compelling. I love it. And let me tell you something. They just create some of the most awesome, badass women heroes of all time. So just an incredible, here's a Crane Borderland Guard samurai, just looking amazing and awesome. This, of course, is the cover art from the Legend of the Five Rings core rulebook, 5th edition. Just beautiful, painterly. They look powerful and deadly. It speaks of intrigue. It speaks of beauty. It speaks of war. It speaks of honor. I love it. This is such an incredible piece. Again, just amazing pieces of art that they created in order to tell the story of this world, and I just absolutely love it. Here is Shiba Sukune wielding her ancestral sword, just a badass phoenix samurai of the Shiba family, looking awesome. Here we see a phoenix Shugenja. Look at the spell. Look at the colors, the way that, is this still part of her cloak? Look at how it's starting to ephemerate and sort of rip apart. Just awesome. Just beautiful landscapes, incredible looks of everything. And just wonderfully, wonderfully, wonderfully done. So Legend of the Five Rings gets just like an extra special shout out from me for being sort of probably like my new favorite art from games. From the modern RPGs. Sean with $20 says, Symbaroum does so much with so little in terms of art. Absolutely love Symbaroum art. Well, I would pull out my Symbaroum book, but Bob still has my Symbaroum book. So let's take a look at some of this art from Symbaroum. And I think we can all agree here that is awesome, right? And Symbaroum is, for lack of a better word, scary evil forest place, right? It's the idea of a Mirkwood, it's this idea of this ancient, unknowable forest where, anything could happen, where, the mist of 1,000 years, leans upon you. Just incredibly evocative. I love too how many of their pieces, all the characters are backlit, right? All of the details are in shadow, right? These characters are backlit. These characters are backlit, right? I love it. It's so often you don't actually see the details of these characters, right? It's not a silhouette, because if you look, you can see the detail in the character, but like it's the light is coming from another way. And look at this piece of art. You're looking and you're like, you suddenly kind of, it looks kind of normal. And then you start to realize you're like, what are these shapes, in the distance? Like, is that a tree? What is that? Like, it's spooky, it's eerie. And there's a lot to like about this vibe. So very, very, very cool stuff. Again, I honestly bought the book just because I was like, I don't know anything about this game. I don't know anything about the rules, but man, it oozes flavor. And I just really respect the hell out of that. So fantastic. So great book. Thank you everybody for hanging out with me tonight. Again, we've been doing a lot of kind of very detailed oriented streams. Tuesday we did unexpectedly the entire solo quest from the new Pendragon game, which that game is very cool. I may have spoiled Second Look, but I've been reading the rest of the starter book. It did intrigue me enough to keep reading it. And I've been pretty busy this week, so I haven't been able to put a ton of time into it, but there's a lot to like there. And to be completely blunt, it's a lot of what I like about Legend of the Five Rings too. So, I would kind of be happy about either of them, but I love this idea of your character being a challenge to yourself. And I think that's such a cool idea. Undead stream when? I mean, what could talk about? That'd be a great stream to get Bob and Aaron in on, because Bob needs to be taught, and Aaron also has just a fantastic library of knowledge of the art of undead, and I feel bad is the only way I could describe it for so many people who have played this game for so long, even in third edition, because yes, some of these characters were very scary in first edition. They would just like straight up kill you. But even in third edition D&D, if a shadow hit you, your strength could get drained away. Your strength could get damaged away. If a wraith struck you, it permanently drained your constitution. It wasn't damage; it was drain. And yes, they did give options to cure that in third edition, but it was still kind of hard. And specters still gave you negative energy levels. And if you had negative energy levels equal to your character level, you were dead. So if you were a level 4 character and you got hit twice by a specter in third edition D&D, your character was dead and probably coming back as a specter under its other control. So when I say things like specter, ghoul, ghast, shadow, vampire, mummy, right? When I say mummy, to so many people, including like my players, like they immediately go, oh shit, mummy rot. Mummy rot doesn't fuck around, right? That's a scary curse. You can't gain hit points anymore. It permanently, you're just done. It's like, it provokes this sort of base level fear that, modern players don't have. I mean, I'll even throw one out for zombies. I mean, I'm getting really technical here, but like in third edition D&D, right? Zombies, anything that was a zombie, and third edition D&D did a cool job with this. They said, look, you can pretty much make anything into a zombie. You just have to follow this template, but you would like double their hit dice and turn them into D12s. And almost every zombie had toughness as a feat. What this meant was like, and again, so much of this is rooted from where you started. When we started playing third edition D&D, I wasn't that old. I was 18, 19. So I was still fairly new, and really, when you think about it, to role-playing games. I'd only been playing them for 8 years or something. You're fighting 7 hit point orcs and 5 hit point goblins, and all of a sudden here comes a humanoid zombie. It's a CR 1/2, right? So you might be fighting 2 or 3 or 4 of these things at level 1. They had 2d12 plus 3 hit points. They had like 15 hit points each. It was terrifying. They felt like they had infinite hit points. It was scary. I loved it. And I just feel like now it's just like monsters are just like, whatever, it's, look at the level stats. It's got, like, it just made up. It, like, being undead doesn't really mean anything anymore. So anyways, I know this was a lot for just someone saying undead stream when, but I am very passionate about undead. To be clear, I number one, I don't know much about 5th edition, so I will definitely say that I didn't know that they could do that. But number two, I'm not really surprised, because 5th edition, again, 5th edition was designed to get people like me. Granted, I liked 4th edition, so that's not fair. But if you think about it, actually, 4th edition was playing, and we'd stopped playing 4th edition, started playing Pathfinder around like 2013 or something like that. We've been playing 4th edition for 5 years. We started playing Pathfinder. 5th edition was designed to get people like me who had left the game, who loved 3rd edition, who grew up with 2nd and 1st edition, and get them back into D&D. It was designed to be like, hey, look at the 4th edition had balanced math, and we tried to make everybody fair and equal. We tried to give everybody something cool to do. We tried to balance the resources. We tried to make sure things didn't get broken. We tried to make sure that the players wouldn't have infinite healing and make every challenge completely trivial by just picking a couple of crazy feats. We got rid of the insane prone to car-opping multi-class system where you can just pick and pop at different abilities and features. I'm going to take 1 level of this and 2 levels of this and 3 levels of this, which qualifies me for this prestige class. I'll take 2 levels of that prestige class before going into this 5th class, right? They're like, we got rid of all that, and you guys hated it. So here's 5th edition, where everything is broken and things are kind of all over the place and nothing really makes sense. And the rules are kind of loosely interpretable, and balance isn't really something that we're concerned about. And then the game somehow blew up overnight, and everybody was like, I hate this. Where's the game that has balanced rules and all this other stuff? And anyways, so it doesn't surprise me that shadows do stat damage, because of course they do. Wraiths, Unfortunate Pumpkin says 3rd edition Wraiths were the boogeyman for his group, and Spectres. For my group, it was Shadows. Shadows were brutal. I think I killed more PCs with Shadows than anything else. Pretty crazy. Undead Gang Rise Up. Undead Gang Rise Up. Hell yeah. See, we got a tip from Mike T.
Mika tipped $5. Notwithstanding that he and his system are problematic, Kevin Siambita has some good art in Rifts. Check out the cover for the original Rifts, the role-playing game, and the original Rifts World Book 1, Vampire Kingdoms.
All right, let me see if I can get this right. Okay, Rifts, the original Rifts role-playing game. Let me do that real quick here. All right. The original. Which one is it? There's so many. Is this the original one? Do we not have it? Keith Parkinson. Kind of low res, I apologize. A complete new role-playing game compatible with the entire Palladium Books megaverse. Well, I'll tell you this. Now look, again, I'm not pointing finger. I'm not trying to be mean to anybody here. But Mike, this is the kind of thing where I look at this and I go, I don't quite know what's going on here. And I don't know if I like it, but it's very strange. And it's very weird. So there's that. And then the other one that Mike wanted us to take a look at is the Rifts World Book 1 Vampire Kingdoms. Because again, I believe, I could be wrong here. I think the idea of Rifts, right, was that you would just go from world to world to world, right? All right. Got something here from Noble Knight. All right. Here we go. All right. Here we have Vampire Kingdom. I like the green. Very, very cool. Scary. Yes. Sliders. Oh my God. I love that show. Yes, it did feel very TMNT. Yes. The Palladium for sure. And again, so the idea here is that this was a book of a world, which is the Vampire Kingdoms, where apparently everybody is vampires. But you could go here as part of your Rifts experience. Which is, again, it's a very strange concept for me. I don't know that I don't know that I've ever really fully loved that, but it is a cool piece. Man, old books had something about them, didn't they? I feel like, I don't know. I'm just very nostalgic. Newer books have just so much polish. They're so like market tested, you know, old books just had that. There's something about them. Cool stuff. Thanks, Mike, for sharing. Let's see here. Victor says, side note, updates on the FU game. Yeah, Richter. So we are, we're not going to start a new game with the holidays. Holidays are really busy especially for the guys in the group, like Aaron and Bob, who have families and they're going to be traveling all the times for Thanksgiving, and then Christmas and December is basically a complete mess. But the answer is, we really want to play Fabula Ultima. I really want to play Fabula Ultima. I'm really excited about the game. We just did a High Fantasy Atlas stream last week, and it just got me that much more excited about the game. Again, I think it could scratch a lot of itches that I want to scratch. So we are doing one. I just don't know exactly when and where. I'd love to do it here on the channel.
GM Scott tipped $25. Just got in. I assume you already covered Paladin in Hell. Was it first? It would have been for me.
It was near the first. GM Scott. Actually, we spent a lot of time talking about Paladin in Hell. Maybe if you go back towards the beginning, I did start with a sort of a memoriam for Jose. But then one of the first pieces that I think we covered after Caves of Chaos was Paladin in Hell. Yes, GM Scott. It is a monumentally important. I think I even mentioned that it is your favorite piece as well. So thank you for the tip. But we did indeed cover it at quite length because I think it's a great piece of art. So, but thank you, GM Scott. That's amazing. Let me see here. It's interesting. They made an adventure. Yeah, here it is. I brought it up. They made an adventure just off of this illustration. How cool is that? Right? like the whole they were like, you know what, let's just make this into an adventure. It's like so cool. It's just such a classic, evocative piece of art. And what's not to love about this? But again, they made it into a second adventure, which I own. You know what, GM Scott? I got to figure out a way to. I own this adventure. Okay, I actually own this adventure here, and it's a second edition adventure. Look, it's by Monty Cook. But I have no idea. I can honestly tell you this. I bought it because I was like, oh, I love that art. I love Paladin in Hell. And I bought it, and I don't think I ever read it. I think it came out you can tell by the font, by the way, that this came out like after the revised second edition came out. AD&D second edition remastered. By the way, Go read the 1989, Player's Handbook, the one with the, guy on the horse charging, and then go read the black cover AD&D second edition books, the ones that had this kind of font. That is a 2.1 in terms of upgrade change. In other words, they did not significantly re-alter or change the rules. They updated some wording. They made the book a little bit more presentable and easier to read. But yeah, that is a 2.1 for sure. No, this is definitely second edition. In fact, GM Scott, you can definitely tell because look at it. It says TSR. TSR third edition was Wizards of the Coast. Anyways, very cool. Thank you, GM Scott. Appreciate you. Oh, there we go. Started going to the wrong scene. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's the skills and powers era. That's why I said I think it came out like 98, 99. Let's take a look here. Paladin in Hell Adventure. Published in 1998. The adventure was inspired by a black and white illustration with the same title. The difficulty level is scaled for 4 to 6 player characters this is the description of the game, okay? A Paladin in Hell is an adventure using the rules of the second edition AD&D. This difficult adventure is scaled for 4 to 6 player characters of levels 15 to 20 who have a combined total of at least 2.25 million experience points and are well equipped with magic items and powerful enchanted weapons. That's a fucking level. That's a description of an adventure. Holy shit. The first thing, the party must seek advice from a powerful but unfriendly wizard. Emiracle, the chaotic. The adventure literally starts with you having to team up with Emiracle. Oh, that's pretty awesome. Monty Cook wrote this adventure because he was fascinated by 2 illustrations. One in the first edition Player's Handbook by David Sutherland, titled A Paladin in Hell, and the other in the first edition Dungeon Master Guide by Dave Trampier, titled Emiracle the Chaotic. That's fantastic. That's literally where it came from. That's hype. So there you go. An entire adventure spawned by Monty Cook's love of 2 of the pieces of art that we talked about here tonight. I love it. I'm hooked running DC 20 West Marches. FU just wasn't as much fun as I'd hoped for me. I'm not sure if it was the lack of tactical combat or the items. I could believe it. When you say DC 20, Calderic, you mean Dungeon Coach's system? I didn't realize that was out or available. To be honest with you too, I completely agree with you that Fabula Ultima is not that tactical. I think there are tactical decisions to be made, which is why I like it. But it's the distinct lack of a tactical combat system. It's the ability to basically boom, 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 to quickly go at like Dungeon World speeds without having like the Dungeon World problem of I like that there's not an initiative system in Dungeon World, but it can be like difficult to manage sometimes. Fabula Ultima can just quickly run through the game, and I really appreciate that. But it doesn't slow me down because there's no minis. We don't have to measure about range. Everything is within range of everything. And yes, you lose a lot of tactical depth that way, but boom, it's going to have that, that boom, boom, snap. Okay. Alpha is available. Oh, interesting. Oh, you gotta respect the hustle, right? Of somebody who goes, hey, buy my unfinished rule set. I was, again, I don't know if you were here when I mentioned this, Cal, but I saw Treant Monk do like a 1-hour video where he covered elements of the DC 20 and he showed some clips from Dungeon Coach talking about the game. And I was, pretty impressed. I think I did that on the Patreon. I think I did that on the Patreon stream. So if you didn't check out the VOD of the Patreon stream, I talked a little bit about it. I liked the +-5 rule, but Aaron hated it. He felt it was going to just make the game too complicated. And subtracting and adding 5 is not as easy as subtracting and adding 10, which is true. Anyways, might be something I pick up and we take a look at. I thought it looked interesting. Oh, Grim Prism. Absolutely. I mean, yeah, the art is who we are, you know? Absolutely. Yeah. Victor agrees. Paizo just sold us an unfinished rule set. Is it too soon? It's too soon. It came out officially yesterday. Oh, good stuff. Looking back, what do you think TTRPG artists were telling us with their art, and what do you think they are telling us nowadays? That's a great question. I mean, I think back in the day, the art was telling you. So there is a statement. I'm trying to remember what it is. Which is, I'm looking for the exact quote. I'm typing in here. But basically, like, drama is when you have ordinary people in extraordinary circumstances, right? So I think the older art was telling us that these were, by and large, ordinary people. They might have swords and they might have grit, but they were ordinary people, but they were being put into these impossible, amazing, unbelievable circumstances. So ordinary people in an extraordinary circumstance equals drama. Modern art is telling us that these are still extraordinary circumstances, incredible vistas, amazing places, foul, vile monsters, bigger than ever. But our characters are now extraordinary. So we had before ordinary people in extraordinary circumstances. Now we have extraordinary people in extraordinary circumstances. And that's no longer drama. Now it's like an action flick, I would say. So like the modern art is sort of saying that D&D and role-playing games are more of like an action flick or a superhero movie than it is a dramatic, moment. So I the original quote didn't talk about superhero movies, but yeah, Ben, there's the other side of it, which is a comedy is when you have extraordinary people in ordinary circumstances. Yeah. Nice. Okay. Yeah, I got to check it out. I'm not making any statements to the contrary either way. I was just, I was listening to it on 2.5 times speed or something. So I'm sure I missed a lot of details, but I was interested. I was intrigued. I thought this was just going to be a 5e clone a la, Ian World's thing via Cobalt Press's thing or whatever. But I was like, oh no, like this is legitimately 4e plus 5e plus PF2. Like I was like, okay, you're trying to do something here, and I respect that. So, which is good. Yeah, came out officially yesterday and already with errata that the death and dying rooms were actual whoopsie, or just a fan reaction is a question worth asking. Yes, it is a good question. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole, KC, but yeah, I will say this though, because it's us, and why not? Because this is what we do. I do find it very funny how many people, keyboard warriors all, were quickly into the comments basically being like, oh, wait a minute. You weren't playing with those rules? Oh, look, if you read the rules correctly, you would clearly see that the way that the rules were intended was that dying value would get added every time your wounded value would get added every time your dying value would increase. I can't believe you were playing. We played that way. I mean, we are very smart and intellectual, just like Mark Seifter. And I believe Mark Seifter played those rules correctly, but I don't believe any of those people were playing by those rules. They just wanted to make it seem like they were. And now Paizo's gone back and said, actually, those were the wrong rules, and you guys were playing by the wrong rules. And there's sort of that mea culpa moment of like, egg on your face. And I do find that a little amusing, Anyways, I actually do think, though, that a very 10,000 foot view, you might think, oh, he's a content creator, he's very involved. Actually, I'm kind of not, but 10,000 foot view, I think that from my little bit of experience that I've seen on Reddit and Facebook, this is causing a lot of tension and vitriol in the community, just in general. So I'm really trying not to add to any of that. people should play what they want to play. But between the stuff with the Foundry and then the day one errata and some of the changes to the licensings on Infinite or something like that, like there's just a lot of stuff going on that I think is just leaving people feeling like, oh, this is just too much. Just too much drama. Oh, absolutely. WoW had a huge influence. Ouija board, just a huge famous, and I completely agree. PS2 day one was the same. I mean, you might be right, Cam. I'm not going to say it. I was playing with the wrong rules, even when the wrong rules were the right rules. Correct. Good point, Pumpkin. Just a shout out from Ben. Thanks, Ben. I watched your 13th Age vid like 3 times, and it finally convinced me to pick up the book. Looking forward to giving a read through. Definitely do so, Ben. A lot of people in the Knights of Last Call Patreon have recently started or are about to start 13th Age games because, quite frankly, it can be difficult sometimes to convince your play groups that they should try something that's not Pathfinder, not D&D. 13th Age has a lot of narrative and kind of new gamist components, but it's still D20. It still has strength, dex, int, con, whiz, charisma. You still have levels, you still have classes, you still have a race. So it has all the familiar touchstones while slowly sort of expanding groups to new concepts and new ideas. And I think 13th Age is a fantastic game on its own, but I think it really works well for players who don't want to leave the safety of D20, but want to sort of start to expand what a role-playing game could be, especially if it comes to things like having some more declarative narrative control, like what you do through icon dice. So big fan of it. And yeah, awesome. Sweet. That's sweet. It's funny that you say that, Grim Prism, because I have seen this effect a lot. Now, more often than I would think, right? Which is, I have shown, I have played indie RPGs. I've run our indie RPGs at like Gen Con for like hardcore 3rd edition D&D players, right? Or hardcore 4th edition D&D players. This was back in the day. And I would find that a lot of times they would enjoy it. Most of the time they would say it's not really for me. And like a lot of times they would really bounce off of it quite hard. But when I would get sort of more super casual people who were like, oh, we like our role-playing games, but like, or we're kind of interested, but I don't want to learn D&D. When I would bring in basically, outsiders, noobs, they would just love these, Fate, Dungeon World, whatever, Powered by the Apocalypse, any of these games. I found that because they didn't come in with these biases of what an RPG should be or what an RPG has to be. And I found that they were much more open to it. So your experience, I think, is very similar to things that I have seen as well. Alrighty, folks. Well, thanks, everybody. Thanks to Ben for suggesting tonight's stream. It was a great opportunity to get a chance to kind of talk with you all about some of the things that really inspired me. It was awesome to see some of the things that inspired you. And I mean, that's what we're all here for, right? Is to be inspired. And that is the name of the game. And again, even tonight, just going through some of these art pieces, getting this ready, I was like, man, I love D&D. I love it. I've always loved it. And I will always love it. And you know what? When 5.5756 6th edition, whatever comes out, I will buy it. Just like I've bought every other D&D book that's ever come out. And I will give it the old college try because, I owe the game that much. So in the meantime, there are a million other RPGs to play. And I got a Pendragon game, a Pendragon rule book that I need to finish. We want to start a Forbidden Lands game real soon. We've got some new players, or I should say old players coming back, returning to our neck of the woods. So we're really excited because we might, our group has been kind of running on life support mode for the last year or so because we just lost a lot of players. And suddenly we're going to get this infusion. We might have 5 or 6 or 7 people that are suddenly available and wanting to play. So could be an exciting time. And hopefully we can get some of that onto the show, onto the stream, onto the channel for you all to enjoy. But also quite completely selfishly, I'm looking forward to playing with my friends as well. KC, when did Tim and Kaz move? Yeah, they move December. So they're going to be moving back here. Even in chat today, our buddy, our incredible friend Rich was saying that he found his dice and he's ready to go, which is kind of his way of saying, like, Rich came in, he played Dungeon Time Extreme with us, but he bounced off of Pathfinder 2nd edition pretty hard. So he never really got into it. And that's been sort of our more or less our game du jour for the last, 3 years. So, but we're trying different things and I'd love to get him gaming with us as well. So yeah. Oh yeah. Studio should definitely be fun studio. I mean, to be honest with you, Casey, if it was me, Smith, Kaz and Tim in the studio, it like that. I mean, that's the, that's like the Quest for the Frozen Flame group, but in person, it might be a riot. So there he is. There's our good buddy. So yeah, maybe, but yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm always excited. I love playing these games with my friends. I've been playing them with them for over 30 years, and I hope to keep playing with them for another 30 years. So as I said before, you never know how many days or dice rolls you have left. So try to make them all count. So with that, I'm going to bid you all a fond farewell. We will be back Tuesday, probably in studio with Aaron and Bob. We are taking off Thursday. That was one of our tip goals. Does Derek get a holiday break? You all said yes. So next week, just one stream. The boys and I will be enjoying the holiday, as I hope you will be as well. I hope you have a safe and blessed evening, weekend, and all of you stay safe out there. Again, our thoughts and prayers are with Jose and his family, and quite frankly, with us, for those of us who came to know him and love him and appreciate him. And, it sucks to be missing, to have an empty chair at the table. But yeah, thanks for everything. Thanks for all the tips. Thanks for all the support. And we'll see you next time on Knights of Last Call. Good night, everybody. Peace.